I'm Donnie Hooper. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Amarillo. And this presentation today was set up because we wanted to be able to speak directly to you as an important group for what we've been trying to do over the past year to make some changes to our drainage utility billing system. So as we get going, and when we get toward the end of this, we'll be able to answer anyone's questions that you might have and be able to discuss it a little bit if you want to. But I think if it goes the way that it did in our meeting on Monday, it was pretty short and sweet, and everybody was really happy, and there just wasn't a lot of questions because I think we've solved the majority of the problems and concerns and issues that we had seen. So the purpose of today's meeting is going to be to it's a different way of having community engagement. Normally, we would like to come sit down face-to-face with you at your board table, talk to you like we did in the past, have some open discussion, but unfortunately now we have to do it this way. So we're going to do it via the Zoom meeting here. But again, I want to say thank you on behalf of all of the task force that really worked on this over the year to you guys, because your organization was key and instrumental in helping us identify problems so that we could go back to the drawing board and start working on solutions. So we want to say thank you for that. There are some other people as a part of that task force that are on the meeting today. You see that Rich Gagnon is here. That is our Director of IT, very, very key player in the changes. Raymond Lee, our Director of Public Works, same thing for him as well. Laura Storrs, you see her. Laura was the Finance Director here at one time, and she is now titled as the Assistant City Manager. If you didn't know that, that's Laura's title now. And yeah, it's okay to clap, Paul. And so she's,
thank you. I appreciate it.
She's not going
like Howard just joined.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hi, Howard.
Smith.
Hi.
All right, you made it.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We were waiting to get started till you got here.
I just sent Denise a message, said don't wait.
No, we've already started with some introductions, so we're good to go. Good to go. Laura is the Assistant City Manager, but she was involved in this throughout the beginning as well on the process, so that's she wasn't going to go away from this until we see it all the way through to the finish line. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody, and that way we can just, I can open that back up, or you can yourself. If you have a question at the end of it, you can unmute yourself, and then we'll answer questions that we need to answer at the end of it. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see that okay? A thumbs up would be fine, as long as we can see that. All right, there we go. So this is just our public engagement piece that we wanted to have. As I mentioned, this is the way that we're going to have to do that instead of sitting face-to-face with you, is we're going to have to do it this way. The purpose of the meeting today is just, again, going to be talking about what we've done over the past year, give you a little bit of history about the drainage utility fee, also give you some information about those changes we've made, and give you an update on our testing environment, our software conversion changes, and our implementation plan as we move forward. So here's the background on where we are at and where we came from. Our ordinance number 7323 was approved back in 2012, and that's what established our drainage utility here for the City of Amarillo. Well, in 2012, we were using a software by a company called Hanson for our billing and our service requests. In 2018, we had to make a change. The reason we had to make that change is that we were no longer getting service from Hanson. They were discontinuing. We were unable to do any kind of maintenance, any kind of upgrades, and it was becoming a pretty big concern. So we made a change to Tyler Munis, made some modifications to the drainage ordinance as well, and in that modification, as you know, that's where we adopted the ordinance that says that we would send the drainage bill to the owner of a drainage property rather than the occupant of a property. Little did we know how much of a change that was really going to be, especially for people who have multiple properties that they take care of. So hindsight's 20/20 now, but we had to do that in that form just because of the capability and limits of the software that we had at the time. I will make a note here and tell you that there's still, the limits of the software have not changed. It still will not do what we wanted it to do with the ERUs. So we had to go around that, work around that, come up with a new solution. And due to customer concerns, including yours, on the issues that related to the new residential billing procedures, we formed a task force. We created that in September of 19 to start digging in and finding ways to come up with a solution to the problem that we were having. That group had everyone that you see that I introduced on the meeting here, plus we had people from city management, building safety, some other folks from IT, from our billing department. We had a really, really good group of people from all different areas that had different pieces to the puzzle that we could all put it together and come up with a solution. So our goal was to make the revisions, take it back to the way that it was and calculate impervious surface and revert the bill back to the drainage, to the residential occupant rather than the owner of that property. So with that, once we made changes to our software, we had to enter what's called a testing environment, where we have two parallel systems, one that was continuing to bill our customers as normal, and then we had a test environment running alongside of that with the new changes, just to make sure that everything was working together. Our recommendation that we had from the group was to complete 2 full billing cycles, which is 24 billings. That's over 12 districts, and we were not going to be satisfied until we had no errors and just no concerns about this before we went live. Utility billing is continuing to compare billing accuracy in that test environment even today, and they will be continuing that as well. Our drainage utility department is continuing on a daily basis performing audit checks of the tested accounts, making sure that they're accurate and that the customer's information is correct. Our IT department is continuing to monitor a whole bunch of things, but included in that associated information with customers, comparing spelling of customer names, typographical errors, things like that. So comparisons for accuracy, monitored and diagnosed monthly or as needed, is going to continue until we go to a go-live date. Now, all 24 billings in those 12 districts have been completed. We reached our goal. We had no major errors. We had no concerns that were discovered during the process, and it really went well. And what we've done is we basically eliminated the ERU calculation that was taking PRAD data, which was tied to the owner of a property, calculating an ERU or equivalent residential unit, and assigning it a charge. And basically what we've done is we've gone around that and said we're going to do a flat rate that's 3 tiers. There's a small, a normal, if you will, and then a large. And basically they're the same charges as they are now. It's just they're going to go to, on that flat rate, to the residential occupant without any of those complicated calculations and without having the PRAD data tied to that as well, because we have the impervious surface already in the system. So utility billing is going to continue to monitor that test environment until we go to our go-live date. So here's our timeline of where we're at now. We're having the Realtors Association meeting with you today. That's a public engagement meeting. We had the Apartment Association meeting on Monday. That went very well. Nothing but positive comments coming out of that. The messaging included in the water bills is proposed to be June 22nd, but we have a bit of a change that we may see on that because we're finding out that there's a couple of other inserts that have to go out, one of those including the water quality report, and there's another report as well that needs to go out. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to do those. If we send them all at once, we may have to send the bills in a box to everybody. So we're going to figure out a way to do that strategically, but make sure that we have the messages out prior to our go-live date proposed for September. We're also going to be putting out some PSAs as public engagement on the tentative change. We'll start that next week, and it's going to be based on some of the feedback we've received in this meeting and the Apartment Association meeting. We'll also have a press release that's going out and an opportunity for media interviews if there's an interest in that from any of the media. And then we will have a proposed ordinance to present to council on July the 7th. That ordinance, I can tell you, is already in the hands of the city attorney. We had a review on that already, and it's come back to us, and we're making our final review of that. So it's ready to go. Council approval slated for July the 14th with an effective date of the ordinance in September. So it'll be a little bit before we get it actually implemented and we start seeing those bills going to the occupants, but that'll be in September. Then we're going to include, if it's necessary, at the end of everything and ask us anything if there are a lot of questions. I think what we're finding out now is that there's really not a lot of questions so far. Everyone seems to be really pleased with the direction this is going. So we'll play that by ear on the Facebook Ask Us Anything feature that we have on our city Facebook page. Again, our tentative go-live date is scheduled for September, and I don't think that we're going to have any concerns or complications between now and then that's going to stop that from being in September. So I'm going to go ahead and unshare my screen and open it back up. If you have a question or anything that you'd like to ask, just unmute your microphone, comments, anything like that. We'll just open it up, and if you all start stepping on each other, then we'll let y'all fight it out. Any questions or concerns from anybody? thumbs up from everybody?
I got a question.
Okay.
Knowing this was coming, and I thought it was coming after 6 months of the year, we paid, which we don't have property management business anymore, but we paid 6 months of the drainage fee. So that'll go through June. So July and August and maybe September. What about those?
We had this question come up earlier, and this is actually a great question, and I meant to bring it up in the presentation. What we're going to be able to do is credit that account, and I'll let Laura go ahead and explain how that process works, but we're going to be able to have a credit on your account if you paid past September, and you get reimbursed for that. That's the basis of it.
Yes, that's exactly right. If for those that have prepaid, once it switches over and the fee goes back to the occupant of the property, then any outstanding credit balance that's left, because that account will no longer be an active account, those amounts will start being refunded back to the owners of them. Great question. Thanks for asking that one.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Well, I have a question. I don't know if this pertains to y'all or not, but on the new city billing, is there any way that, because on my rentals, I don't have a debit card to pay the bills online, so I have to like physically mail you in a check. Is there any way that that can get changed? Because I'm writing 50 checks for $2. Or not
Okay.
really, but you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and again, that's all going to be going away in a couple months because that drainage fee will go back to those occupants. We do have the ability to do one-time payments with a credit card online, but do what? I'm sorry.
I don't have a credit card for those accounts. I want to go out of my bank account, and they used to do a routing number and do it that. And it's such, I would just tell you, it's a pain because I forget. I mean, or I collect them all, so I just have to do one stamp instead of doing 10 stamps.
Absolutely. And we did have some groups that were mailing us in one check with just kind of a list of which accounts it all got applied to, and we were able to work through that. Okay, and Mr. French was one right there.
I've done that too, and they've not messed it up, but I'm like, I'm sure they hate to see when I bring it in.
Well, and I'll be honest with you all. I know all of this was a hassle for each one of you. And just speaking frankly, it was a hassle for us internally as well. So it's created a lot of extra work on all of you guys, a lot of extra work on us as well. So we are probably celebrating this change just as much as you all are. So it's going to be really good. And again, we really appreciate y'all's patience over the last year. There is nothing easy about a software change at all, and it never works out perfectly 100%. And you guys, I think, felt the brunt of some of the unfavorable changes that were made, but you guys did so great communicating to us and letting us really understand the hardships it was putting on you all, so we could really brainstorm internally. Okay, the software won't do it. How do we fix the problem? And that's what Donnie said. I mean, we had our internal team just saying, we got to figure something out because this is not ideal by any means. So again, thank y'all for your patience. It's been a long, I guess it's over a year now, but a long year and a half. But we're getting close to having it resolved.
So if I can add, first of all, I am thrilled to hear this. This is, the city's been very responsive to these issues from the very beginning. And while we were all frustrated, you were very responsive from the very beginning. So thank you for that. And I'm very happy with where we are. But I'll add to what Mitzi said. If we had a new wish list, now that you've achieved our first one, being able to pay online using a routing number at a bank account would be huge for us. Those of us who are property managers have accounts set aside for that, but we don't typically have debit and credit cards set aside for it. So it would be great if those water bills could be paid using a bank account.
and I appreciate your feedback on it. That's been on our list of things to work through. It's in some of the next phases as we continue fine tuning the system. Absolutely. We want to make sure we get that feature added on. We're also taking a hard look at that overall customer service portal. I know it's not the most user friendly. And so we're looking at that as well and what options we have. And so I appreciate you sharing that with me. I will make sure that that is still continued to be on that future to-do list. We will get that addressed. I know that piece will get addressed, but we also want to find a more user-friendly option for those web services, because I felt like we kind of took a step backwards on some of that. So,
Or Laura,
yes.
you can just tell them what I do. I have 11 secretaries. They do Excel spreadsheets every day for y'all, and they can just hire more secretaries. I've got a whole battalion back there full. And y'all all know I do too.
It sounds like Mr. French has some capacity to maybe help all of you guys out, maybe.
Saying that.
That's what I heard. All right.
Hey,
Well,
are there any questions or any concerns we can help you with today? I think we're in a really good place with this, and I think we're, like she said, we're really pleased with where we've come. We wish we could have done it a lot quicker. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast, and we want to, and just so y'all know, we want to make sure too, before we roll this out and before we go live, that it was absolutely 100% going to do what we said it was going to do, and we were going to be able to do what we tell you we're going to do. So I think we're at that point now, and that's why we're celebrating. I keep a grease board in my office that has the percentages of each of the tasks, and right now all of them are 100%, except for the council meetings and for the review of the ordinance. And so I looked at that today and I thought, man, we've come a long way in the past 10 months. So it's big victory for us, and we appreciate what you've done and your input in all this. Would have been possible without it. So with that said, unless anybody has anything else, we'll go ahead and end the meeting for today. But again, I want to say thank you on behalf of the City of Amarillo, all of us, for your input into this, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And if y'all have any concerns or any questions that come up past this meeting, give us a call, and we'll be glad to visit with you at any time. All right? Thank y'all. Hope y'all have a great day.